Hello everybody, today we are working on other types of equations, like if they are polynomial equations by factoring, we will do radical equations, we will do rational exponents, equation with rational exponents, equations that are quadratic in form but not actually quadratic, involving absolute value equations, and some one application question. So let's start with this one. I'm gonna give you an example. Draw this. Okay, so let's do that. And I like actually I like these lines. It makes me write down everything straight. Okay, let's do example. One of the example, it says solve by factoring. So I have 2x cubed plus 3x squared equal 8x plus 12. Now if you see this equation, like it's just a polynomial, and it goes in the order like it's x cubed, x squared, that's x1, and then that's a constant. So let's make them equal 0, this whole equation polynomial. So I'm gonna go 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 8x. I move the 8 here using opposite operation, and 12 and equals 0. Now anytime when you have the polynomial equation, you're solving it by factoring. This is by factoring. Then make sure if you have 4 terms, like 1 2 3 4, then you have 4 terms, then you like make sure that you solve these two first, and then you go for these two. And how we're going to do that, we're going to find a common factor there. So in here, between these two, like I'm making a set, different sets, the common factor is x squared. Okay, then the inside is 2, and since this is x squared, inside 1, only 1x left, plus x squared, and then I am left with 3, minus, what is the common factor here? It's not x, so it's 4. 4 goes to 8 and 12. So I got 2x, like 4 times 2x is 8x. And then since I have a minus here and I also have a negative, I'll make this positive, because negative times positive is going to give me negative. And this is going to be 3. 4 times 3 is 12. Now, when you have 4 terms and you are solving as a group, like a first group and second group, make sure that when you factor them, like these inside the parentheses 2 terms, they are exactly the same. Okay, so I'm gonna go x squared minus 4, like I picked that one, and I have a 2x plus 3, and I factored it, make it equal 0. So that's it. This is how you are getting that. Now this is a perfect factor, it's good, it's fine, that's the answer. If you want to make sure that you did right, then you can make this expression, this factor equals 0, this is factor equals 0, make the x by itself, and plug them in the original equation and see if you are getting both sides of the equation equal or the same numbers, then you're good to go. Okay, let's try solving a radical equation. So now I have radical equation. How do we solve radical? Now I have an example, x plus 3 square root plus 3 equal x. Now in radical equations, just make sure, remember that, always make this radical, isolate this radical on one side. So if I'm isolating radical, I subtract 3 both sides, because the 3 jump over and I have to use opposite operation. We can't just jump over the equal sign. So now I'm getting x plus 3 with the radical equal negative, x minus 3. I can do, they are not like terms, so I have to keep them. Now this is what I got so far. Now how do I get rid of this square root? Square root, always square it. If you want to get rid of a square root, square it. If you want to get rid of a square root it. They goes either way. I'm going to show you really quick so you know, you remember that. If I have x squared and I want to get rid of the square, I'll square root both sides. For example, this is 2, so I square root both sides. They cancel out, so I got x equals square root 2. Now, if I have a x square root and I want to get rid of the square root, then I have to square it, both sides. So this square and square root cancel out and I'm left with 4. You see that? This is easy. The square and square root are like opposite operations of each other. Okay, so this is what I got. Now 2 and 2 cancel out. If I'm squaring one side, I have to do the other side too. You know that. X plus 3 left. And I have to square this, so I have to open this up, like I have to FOIL it, and this actually means x minus 3 and x minus 3. You have 2 of those. So the easy way I do it, I mean you can multiply like these and you can do this, but the way I do it, which is easy and shorter way, multiply x twice, which is x squared. This minus sign stays right there. Whatever sign is there, it's gonna stay there. Now I'm going to leave a space. Now negative 3 square it. It's going to give me 9 positive. What goes in the middle? 2 times x times 3, or 2 times 3 times x, which will give me 6x. So that's the easy way to do it. Okay, now let's solve this. We're going to make this equal 0. Again, it's a quadratic, it's 2. So x squared minus 6x plus 9, and I move this x over here, I move the 3 here and make it equal 0. So let's combine like terms, make it simpler. X and x will give me 7x. 9 subtract 3 is going to give me positive 6. Now I can factor this. It's a quadratic and I don't have a coefficient up here. Remember, the coefficient, if you don't have it, if the coefficient is 1 here invisible, it's good to go. All you have to do is find the factor of 6 and x. You know the factor of x is x and x. The factor of 6, you're going to find the factor of 6 that you can add or subtract those x's, those factors of 6, and you can get 7. Okay, so for example, I pick 6 and 1. 6 plus 1 will give me 7. 6 subtract 1 will give me 5. So we can add and we can get that 7. Now there is one more thing in this one. Do you see I have the different signs, negative and positive? In case I have like ax squared bx plus c, something like this. This is a quadratic. If I have both positive, my both factors gonna be positive. Write down this somewhere in your notebook so you will remember it. If I have ax squared minus bx plus c, like the first the second term has a negative, like a minus sign, then both of your factors are going to be negative. If I have ax squared plus bx minus c, then your one factor is positive and one is negative. I don't know which one is going to be positive, negative. It's gonna be matter when you multiply them, FOIL them, and see if you're getting the right answer. So it's up to you, but one positive, one negative for sure. Okay, did I leave it? Okay, if you have both negatives, x squared minus bx minus c, then again, one negative, one positive. Which one? I don't know. You can decide about it, how we getting this. Okay, so write down all that stuff. This is important. Now I'm gonna leave this for a minute so you guys can copy it or take a picture. Let's do this. Now since this is negative and this is the beginning negative right there, so I have both of them minus. Both factors are minus. X and x. One is 6, one is 1. It doesn't matter because the signs are the same, so it's not going to change anything. If you want to check this, you can check it, FOIL it. You will get the same x squared, means x squared minus 7x plus 6. If you don't want to FOIL it, then make it equal 0 each one of them like we did before, and then plug them in the original, and you will see if you're getting the right answer, if the statement comes out true. So these are my factors and these are my answers for the radical equation. Okay, let's do with rational exponents. I'm gonna go here, rational equations with rational exponents. Okay, now for example, you have something like this. x to the power m divided by n. How do I rewrite this, like in the radical form? You're going to make a radical. Do you see this n? It's in the denominator. So when it's in the denominator, you can move it to the outside of square root. If that's a numerator, it's going to go on top of that. That's all you need to know, okay? So let's do example here. I'm going to do example. I have 5x to the power 3 over 2 minus 25 equals 0. Okay, now this is again two terms. Make sure you make this x to the power 3 over 2 by itself or isolated. So the first thing first, we don't touch this one because this goes with the x. Remember, this is like from way back. I have one of the video about this. But you add 25 both sides, okay? They cancel out. I got 5x to the power 3 over 2 equal positive 25. Now I'm going to make it by itself, so I divide 5 both sides. When you do this, I got x3 to the power 2 equal 5. 25 divided by 5 is going to give me 5. Now, how do I get the x by itself, like all by itself? Guys, pay attention. This is really cool. I like this. You're going to times this with the reciprocal, like 2 over 3. I'm going to times this. I mean, whatever I do on one side, I can have to do it on the other side. So I'm going to do 5 to the power 2/3. Okay, so they cancel out, cancel out, cancel out, cancel out. So I'm left with x equal. Then I have 5 2/3. You can leave it like this. That's your answer, correct? But if you want to change it into this radical form, we can do that. We can have x equal 5. I'm going to make that square root thingy. Denominator is going to go up here. The numerator is going to go on top of this. And you can simplify further. It's going to give me something 25. X equal. And that's my final answer. You can leave it like this too. But that was simple, so I just did it. Okay. Let's do the equations that look like quadratic, in a form of quadratic. And I'm gonna make sure draw a line so we don't mess up here. This one is another example. I have x to the power 4 minus 5x squared plus 6 equals 0. You guys can tell this is in the quadratic form, like ax squared bx plus c. But this is x to the power 4. It's not x squared, right? So how do we solve this? We're going to try to make this x to the power 4, like change it to quadratic. Like, for example, you know that I can rewrite this x to the power 4 like this, right? I can do that. Then what method we use, just pay attention. I'm going to change this x square, and I would say I pick a word u. It's an alphabet u, and this u is equal x squared. So this x squared that I have inside, that is equal u. So pay attention. This u is equal x squared, like this x squared, not that 2, okay? That's x squared. Okay, let's do that. Now, how do we change everything according to that u? Since I know that x squared is u, then if I rewrite this, I'm going to say u squared, right? That squared, right? Or let's try one more thing. I'm going to rewrite my question like that. X squared squared minus 5x squared plus 6. Okay, now it will make sense, okay? Now this x squared, the one I have inside, it's equal u. And that square is going to stay on top of u. Minus 5. X squared is equal u. Now I'm replacing every x squared with u. Plus 6 equals 0. See, this is making it quadratic. Now I changed my x to the power 4 equation into a quadratic equation, which is u squared minus 5u plus 6. And we will change that u squared back to x squared, okay? Don't worry about it. But just for make it easy and make it simpler, so we can replace this x squared with the u to make it quadratic, look like quadratic. Now I have to factor it out. U and u are the two factors. Okay, 6 has factors 6 and 1, and 6 has factors 2 and 3 also. So which factors should I pick so I can get 5? If I do 2 times 3, I add them, I get 5. If I pick 6 and 1 and I subtract 1, I'll get 5. So let's pick 2 and 3. Both of them works, by the way. So let's do 2 and 3. Okay, I'm going to pick 2 and 3. So, and you know the minus sign in the beginning of this equation means both of my factors are negatives. Do you see that? Like that one? So, okay, that's negative. So I'm going to do u and u here. 2 and 3. So it doesn't matter where 2 goes, where 3 goes, the signs are the same. Now, this, do you see that? This is good. Everything looks good to me right now. Now, let's make sure that we change this u to x squared. So it's going to be x squared minus 2. I'm solving a factor thing, and this u is x squared minus 3. Do you see that? Perfect. You can do that. That's just an easy way to do it, to make it quadratic and you don't get scared. So change this u to the power x to the power 4 into a power rule. This is exponential power rule. 2 times 2 is 4 anyway. So I'm just going to make it quadratic. That's 2 stays, but that 2 changed to x squared as a u. Okay, that's one way to do this question. Okay, let's do absolute values. Equation involving absolute values. Equations involving absolute values. Okay. Now I have 2x minus 1 within the absolute equal 5. How do I solve this? Always make sure that, remember when we were doing radical equations, I said radical should be by itself isolated. I mean, this absolute value is isolated, but in case if it was not isolated, you have to make sure that it is isolated. Okay, how do we solve these questions? And you know, absolute get 2 answers, one positive, one negative answers. Okay, so let's do this. Take it out from the absolute. So you add 1, you add 1. Then you have 2x, they cancel out, equals 6. You divide by 2 both sides, and I will get x equal 3. Got it? That's one answer. One thing. Now, let's make sure another one. If I have 2 exponents, I told you one has to be positive, one has to be negative. So this one is negative, I'm explaining. You see that? The equal sign changed to, the positive changed to negative. So it has to be one positive, one negative. Okay, so if I solve the same way, equal negative 5, then it's going to be adding 5, adding 5. So 2x equal negative 4. You divide 2 both sides, and I got x equal negative 2. I have this answer, and I have this answer. So the solution set is, you can say solution set is negative 2 and 3. Remember, in the sets, we always put the smallest number here first and then the biggest number. Okay, there is one more thing about the absolute equations. If you have, in case, the same question and you have a negative 5, like they want you to solve this, this negative doesn't work. There is no solution, because you know that absolute, these are not parentheses, actually these are absolute. The absolute means a distance. Distance can never be negative. So if you're telling me this absolute expression is equal negative 5, that's not okay. There's no solution for it. You can get the negative answer. You can get the solution negative too. That's okay. But in the question, when you tell me this absolute is equal negative 5, no, it's not, because absolute can never be negative. Distance can never be negative. Just a small, quick tip. Okay, let's do this application problem. Read the question first. It says the formula H equal negative 2.3 square root I plus 67.6 models weekly television viewing time H in hours. So we're going to underline this H. That's a television viewing time in hours. By annual income I is in income in 1,000. What annual income corresponds to 33.9 hours per week watching TV? This is again H. That's a viewing time. That's the viewing time too, right? So they're looking for income I. So we are looking for I. I'm going to start with what they're asking me. They're asking me I have to write the equation that we already have it. They are already giving me that. E plus 67.6. So I have to look for I. H is already given, which is 33.1. I'm replacing that. Negative 2.3 square root I stays plus 67.6. Now you know that 67.6 and 33.1, I have to move the 67 over here so I can combine them. I'm going to subtract 67.6, 67.6. So when I subtract, I got negative 34.5. This is going to give me 2.3 square root I. Okay. Again, I divide. I have to get the I by itself actually. So negative 2.3, negative 2.3. They cancel out. When I divide these and using a calculator, you know negative turn positive. So it's going to give me 15 equal square root I. Now again, they're asking I. They never said square root I. So how do I get rid of this square root? By squaring. Remember that, guys, by squaring both sides. Remember I said square and square root are opposite, like square root and square, they are opposite of each other. Okay, so this in this cancel out and I'm left with I equal 15 times 15 is going to give me 225. So the annual income is $225,000 because they said dollars in thousands. Corresponds to 33.1 hours per week watching TV. So that's $225,000. Corresponds to 33.1 hours per week watching TV. So that's what it. You have any questions? Comment below. If I made a mistake, you want to know something extra, please comment below. I will make another video for you guys. Subscribe my channel. I would appreciate that. Thank you and have a good day. Bye.